We have unionists here in this room. Ooh, do we have unionists in this room? Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me. I just want to let you know how honored I am to be here and how excited I am, because in this room is represented a lot of history, a lot of accomplishments, a lot of promises kept, a lot of promises to be made, and also the promise of the future when we have our young people, the dreamers are here. Yes. I just want to say aloha to you guys. You know, when I taught Asian American history way back in 1960 something, before all of you were born, one of the things I've learned when I did my research was that the labor movement among Asians is not a recent thing. The labor movement among Asians was way in the 1800s. It was going on in Idaho, in Montana, Washington, Oregon, all around the country. I also found out that the labor movement was run by people who had conviction that cost them their lives. And I tell you that that made a big impact on me, because I ended up saying I didn't know. And then when I learned about the farm worker movement that was led by a Filipino, along with a Mexican, and this was back in the 20s, and they fought together to have recognition by the union. And finally they got recognition by the union, and when they were about to be brought in, the leadership of that union says, the Mexicans can come in, the Filipinos can come in, but the Japs can't. And the leadership says, well, forget you. And that put the farm labor movement, the farm worker labor movement, back decades, until most recently when we started again that labor movement with the Filipinos and the Mexicans, the Filipino Americans and the Mexican Americans. And those are the kinds of things that I think we need to have people understand and learn. And they say, they won't end up saying, I didn't know that. The Asian Americans are not new in politics. The first Asian American was back in the 50s. His name was Dalip Saud Singh. He was a Sikh. He was able to become a member of Congress because we changed the laws. And a lot of people say, we didn't know that. Sikhs were in the Yuba City for over 120 years, working and toiling in the soils, making a living, expressing their religion through the 5Ks, the religious expression of their beliefs. And still, after all those years they've been in the Sacramento Valley, there's still people in this country that says, I didn't know. We have today Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, and we have over 41 members right now in that caucus. We have some associate members that bring us up a little bit higher. And that was led by folks like Congressman Underwood from Guam, Norman Mineta from San Jose, Senator Akaka and Senator Inoue from Hawaii, Congresswoman Patsy Mink from Hawaii, Bob Matsui from Sacramento. And we just have to remember that they laid down the groundwork for congressional members to be able to form themselves into a organized group of legislators in Congress. And we want people not to say I didn't know that. Today, this past election, there's a new senator from Hawaii, Mazie Hirono. She was born in Japan, raised in Hawaii, and now represents this country and her state as an Asian American. I don't want people to say I didn't know that. We have 5 new members in Congress now, because all of you had worked hard to support them. We have Ami Barrow, Dr. Barrow from Sacramento, Grace Meng from New York, first Chinese American from New York. We have Tammy Duckworth, double amputee, war hero, pilot of the Black Hawk helicopter, articulate. And while she was recovering in the hospital, the Armed Service Committee wanted her to say that there was enough money to take care of veterans. And they wanted her to testify to that. They kept asking her questions in front of the body, and she would not respond the way they wanted her to. And she said to them finally, I know what you want me to say, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to tell you that we need more resources for our veterans. Yes. That's before she became a congresswoman. And now she's there representing not only veterans, not only disabled, not only Asian Americans, but all Americans, but with the understanding of her whole experience. I want people not to say, I didn't know that. We have another gentleman from Southern California. In 1992, he ran against an opponent, Republican opponent, who outed him. And for 20 years, he'd been working to get into Congress. And finally, he got into Congress with his dignity and his values intact. 20 years. He's our first openly gay Asian American congressman from Riverside, Mark Takano. And we can all call him with great pride, and I dubbed him our first Gaysian. And so we have articulate members of Congress, 5, the most that's ever come into Congress at once. And you guys helped it. You made it happen. Because you helped out in the different regions and districts. And there's more of them coming. They'll have brown skin, yellow skin. They'll be of different ethnic backgrounds and gender and orientation. And we're going to fill Congress and the Senate with more people who have faces like ourselves. Because that's the dream that was promised, that Michael had mentioned when he mentioned Martin Luther King Jr. That this is the 50th year of that dream. There's a lot of things that have been accomplished since then. Got more people of color in Congress, more women, but the dream is not fulfilled. And I don't want people to say, I didn't know that that was Martin's dream. And I don't want people to say that I didn't know that APALA had a hand in it. I want you to understand and embrace the kind of work that you have done. So I'm here today, in part, to recognize your work, your efforts, your sweat, your battles, your values, so that you know that I'll never say, I didn't know that. And I want you to know also that the kind of work that you've been working on in terms of affordable health care is going to be more and more expressed, reflecting your needs and your values, because you shared that with the leadership in Congress. You did it with Hillary, you did it with Obama. Because of that work, then you did it with Nancy Pelosi, and that all worked together to be part and parcel of the Affordable Health Care Act. Make no mistake, you had a hand in it, a critical hand, because you spoke up, you led, and you made sure that we understood that, so that we, as policymakers, can't say, we didn't know that. You've been active in comprehensive immigration reform. were critical in making sure that Asian Americans were represented in the debate for comprehensive immigration reform. If you did not speak up, we would not be part of that argument. We would not be part of that consideration. Because Asian Americans could have just easily said, we're not part of the undocumented. But we are. And because you were in it, we knew that 10%, a minimum of 10% of the undocumented come from Asian Pacific Islanders. Because you said that, Congress cannot say, I didn't know that. And yet, the Senate bill doesn't reflect completely everything that we want and we need. But they can't say they didn't know that. They made a decision, and they're putting stuff out. So there's future work when we pass comprehensive immigration reform. You're part and parcel of making sure that the dreamers were not faceless. You put the face on the dreamers. Congress did not pass the bill when it got to the Senate finally. It did not pass, in spite of the fact that the dreamers are present in great numbers. You were the one that put the face of the dreamers in front of us so that we could not say we didn't know about them. So when we start to look at comprehensive immigration reform in the House of Representatives, we need to make sure that your face is in front of the face of those who are equivocating on the issue of comprehensive immigration reform. We need to tell the story. We need to tell the story that's founded in this book, Undocumented and Unafraid. These are the stories that are inherent in each and every one of us. And you have to represent those stories and those youngsters in front of members of Congress so that we pass some form and fashion of comprehensive immigration reform. And I'll tell you a secret, it ain't gonna be perfect. But we have to pass one out of the House so that it can go to conference with the Senate. Because the President is ready to sign a bill that says comprehensive immigration reform. And he says, I'll sign that because it's better, those bills are better than what we have right now. And we can fix it as we move along in the future. And that's why I say that all of you, including the dreamers, are the future, so that we can perfect the kinds of laws that we have, the kinds of laws that we need to pass, so that this country cannot say, I didn't know that. And so I just want to say to you, on a daily basis, when you wake up every morning and you put on your makeup, or you comb your hair, or you shave, whatever you do, you look at yourself and you understand that because you know your history, because you know your background, because you know your family, because you know the issues, because you know your languages, that none of that is lost on you. That expectation should be translated into policy by people like myself. That your daily work has a benefit, ultimately, down the road. And when you get tired or you get discouraged, just remember that the progress that we have made up to now is because of the sweat and the work that you've done. When I first came to APALA a few years ago, the distribution and the diversity of the faces was not as great as it is today. The numbers are greater today. And the respect that they have for APALA has grown. I just want to be your partner in Congress. And I want CPAC to be your partner in Congress. I want the Caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, and Asian American Caucus to be your partners in Congress. to be your voice, to translate your history and your experiences and your desires into policy. Because when we do that, the issue of diversity comes to life because of us to be able to translate your experiences into the policy. Makes that policy more precise, more inclusive, more nurturing. And never, never, ever say that, you know, you don't have the issues, you don't have the insights, you don't have the leadership. Because in this room exists all that, all that. And without you, the power of this country and the leadership and the wisdom that we have today would have been much less without you. So I just wanted to say to you, thank you for caring, thank you for organizing, thank you for being the voice, thank you for standing up for the working people of this country, for those around the globe who need leadership in social justice, human rights. Now let me close with this thought. Since we have started out with Martin Luther King's comments, I'll close with this thought that I always carry with me. In his last speech at the cathedral, 3 days before he was murdered in Memphis, Tennessee, where he wanted to speak on behalf of the working people there for social justice, economic justice. He made a comment in that last speech he made, and the name of the speech was Remaining Awake. Remaining Awake during the Revolution. It was a speech where he put the first gauntlet down against the Vietnam War, where he put down the gauntlet for social justice. But he also said one more thing that resonates with me, and I hope it does with you. That he said there's three kinds of folks out there. He said there are those who want to be popular and just wants to know which way to go. And there are those who want to be followers of consensus rather than the leader of consensus building. And then he said there are people who are of people of conscience. And people of conscience are the ones that follow their conscience and do the right thing. So I say to you, each and every one of you, you are a person of conscience. APALA is a group who understand what is right, is made up of people of conscience. So I just want to let you know that as a policymaker, as a nation American, I make this pledge to you that I'll always be a person of conscience. Thank you.